Muy bien, welcome, bienvenidos, bienvenidas a todas y a todos los que nos acompañan para esta sesión informativa sobre fondos disponibles para parroquias que desean apoyar o servir a la comunidad migrante recién llegada. En algún momento en tu parroquia, antes o después de misa, te has encontrado con personas que están pidiendo dinero, pidiendo ayuda porque dicen haber llegado a este país apenas. Seguramente o en algún momento has sentido la impotencia de qué podemos hacer para ayudarles. Bueno, si esta ha sido tu experiencia, bienvenida a esta sesión, bienvenida a esta sesión. Vamos a través de este breve tiempo juntos que tenemos, estamos ofreciendo esta oportunidad, este espacio virtual con nuestro invitado especial, quien nos estará compartiendo los distintos tipos de fondos disponibles que hay para las parroquias, para organizaciones como por ejemplo, podrían ser las conferencias de San Vicente de Paúl, los requisitos para calificar y poder recibir estos fondos y algunas ideas de cómo están siendo usados o pueden ser usados. Bienvenidos nuevamente. Les saludamos a ustedes, a quienes vean la grabación de esta breve sesión en algún momento. Nuestro invitado especial para ahora es el señor Chris Kohler, director de Misiones y Ministerio con Inmigrantes para la Arquidiócesis de Seattle, y un servidor, Edwin Ferrera, director para el Ministerio Hispano también aquí en la Arquidiócesis de Seattle, y tengo el gusto de ser el moderador para esta sesión el día de ahora. Nos apoya con la interpretación la señora Make Galitelli. Esto es para interpretación simultánea al español. Algunas indicaciones antes de iniciar nuestra sesión. Esta sesión está siendo grabada con el objetivo de poderla compartir posteriormente para que la información llegue a más personas, a más colegas de nosotros en las parroquias y en distintas organizaciones. Para quienes están participando en este momento en la sesión, les pedimos un par de cosas realmente. Uno es el mantener deshabilitado su audio. Ya más adelante hablaremos sobre el momento para preguntas, pero apagar el audio, el micrófono, apagarlo por el momento y mantenerlo apagado. Y el segundo es, si desean utilizar la función de interpretación simultánea, la presentación de Chris va a ser en inglés. La interpretación simultánea es al español. Entonces, si ustedes desean escuchar la presentación en español, lo pueden hacer yendo al menú en la parte inferior de Zoom. En el icono del mundo, ahí presionan y les va a aparecer la opción de poder escuchar o participar de esta sesión en español. A ver, ¿qué más? La presentación de Chris en cuanto al formato en sí de la presentación durará únicamente 15 minutos o quizá un poquito más, 15 minutos lo que preveemos, para que los últimos 15 minutos sea de responder a las preguntas que puedan tener, a los comentarios, y al final de la media hora, un poco después de las 11:30, ya que estamos empezando con algo de retraso, al final de las 11:30, Chris se quedará en la sesión para poder dar continuidad a alguna pregunta o inquietud que tengan, que quieran consultar con él. Permanecerá por 15 minutos más. Concluimos con algunos avisos. Entonces, de momento, I welcome Chris to this virtual space. Again, the presentation will be in English. If you like to hear the presentation in Spanish, what you need to do is just go to look for the simultaneous interpretation option at the bottom of your menu, your Zoom menu, and choose the language of well, in this case, it's just Spanish, but the presentation is in English. So, Chris, thanks again for joining us today to share information about the grants, the type of grants that we have available for parishes who are wanting to work with our immigrant brothers and sisters. We've seen an increase in terms of the number of people who show up to our Sunday Mass or masses asking for help because they just arrived, and many times we find ourselves scratching our heads and just wondering, how do we help? So Chris, welcome, and the mic is yours.
Thanks, Edwin. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming today. I am going to talk as little as possible in the presentation because I want to have plenty of time to answer any questions, or if you have ideas about what you might want to use grant funding for, to have time to talk about those today. So we know that parishes have been seeing more people, more immigrants coming to the door, you know, in one way or another, to seeking help. Now, before I continue, I just want to apologize because I'm getting over being ill, and I have this cough that is lingering. So we know that, I mean, I've heard from more and more parishes, almost weekly now, someone at a parish will contact me, either a pastor or a staff member or a parishioner, usually someone in a social justice ministry, or St. Vincent de Paul. And, you know, we want to be able to help parishes respond. Now, we don't have a lot of funding, but we do have some. So I'm going to actually talk a bit first about this immigrant ministry grant, which are grants of up to $2,000 to parishes or deaneries. And then I'm also going to mention at the end a different grant that's available through the funding from the CAPA Campaign for Human Development. All right, so first, the grant from the funds available for immigrant ministry. So with all these, the immigrant ministry grants, and they're really quite flexible. You could use it for pretty much anything that a parish might want to do in responding to migrants or immigrants who are coming to the parish. It doesn't have to be someone new. It doesn't have to be something new that the parish does. It can be for one-time things. Somebody shows up at the door and they're looking for help, you know, say with a voucher for a hotel stay. Or it could be something more long-term. Our Lady of Guadalupe in West Seattle is going to be helping out at the, if you've heard of this, the migrant camp in Tukwila. So that's a longer-term commitment that they're making. So it can be for short things or long things. It can be for ministries, an immigrant ministry, or St. Vincent de Paul, or a Hispanic ministry, or whoever. It doesn't really matter to us who's doing the actual ministry. The check will go to the parish, and the parish will need to account for that. But who actually does? You know, it can be any. It could be a religious education department that's doing something to better serve immigrants in their in any of the ministries that they're running. So it's very flexible. It's $2,000. There's no due date on it. It really is. We'll give out the funds until they are gone, and I can't really say how long that's going to take. We still have probably enough funding for another 10 or 12 grants. I get one maybe once every week or two, so it's not going to last a long time. So if you're interested in doing if you're interested in these grants, then it would be better not to wait. So, and just two examples. I gave the example of Our Lady of Guadalupe that's going to be helping out at the migrant camp in Tukwila. Another parish is, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it is offhand, but another parish is really setting up what you could think of as a pastor's discretionary account to help people who come to the door. So it has to be spent on ministry to migrants. But beyond that, it's quite flexible what you can use it for and who actually does the ministry. The guidelines in both English and Spanish, and the application in both English and Spanish are available on our website. And you can submit the application in Spanish if you want. My Spanish is not that good, but I've got Mate. So feel free to do that. The other grant that we have available right now is it's funds that come through the collection for the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, which happens in every September. We have grants. We call them transformative education grants. Those are for parish ministries that want to help, primarily really help parishioners deepen their understanding of Catholic social teaching as it relates to especially poverty issues, but really any of the issues, really any social issues that that we encounter, or that there are ministries for. So it could be homelessness, or food insecurity, or racism, or whatever it might be. Those grants are due by the end of this month, so January 31st. They are for $5,000. And again, they're available to parishes and to deaneries. And again, it doesn't matter to us who's actually doing the ministry, because some parishes are thinking of applying for that funding so that their St. Vincent de Paul chapters can do more in terms of helping that's actually for the other grant. There are some parishes, at least one deanery that's working together to do a series of kind of a conference on Catholic social teaching for all of their parishes and their parishioners. So that's one type of an example. There is a lot of flexibility in this one too, but it has to include Catholic social teaching, and it is due by, the deadline is January 31st. And the guidelines for that in the application are not online. You just need to email me and I'll send them out to you. We have those in English and Spanish as well. So examples of what those might fund, let's say you have a food bank at your parish, and you want to do a retreat with all of the parishioners who volunteer there, and you want to bring in a speaker for on Catholic social teaching and how it relates to that ministry. That's all fundable. We'll provide a grant to help support that. We really would like to see the results of that grant, that people come out of whatever you do, that people then at the end are ready and willing and feel capable of advocating for justice on these issues. So these grants, these transformative education grants, are about deepening people's understanding and helping them to advocate for justice. They are not for direct service ministries. So the food bank, if we wanted to do a retreat to deepen people's understanding of Catholic social teaching, that they could get a grant from us for. But we wouldn't give them a grant to purchase food to stock the food bank. So it's not direct service, things like that, as opposed to the immigrant ministry grant, which really is mostly about direct service. All right, I'm going to stop talking there, and so that we have time for questions and to talk through any of ideas you might have. And I will say that if you have any ideas, if you go back, please share this with whoever you want to at your parish. And if you all have questions, I'm happy to just give me a call or an email, and I'm happy to talk to you about that. So 2 grants, immigrant ministry grant and the transformative education grants. Anybody have any questions?
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. And if you have questions at this moment, I would encourage you to enable your audio and your mic. Si tienen preguntas, pueden habilitar su micrófono y hacerlas en este momento. You could write them in the chat, las pueden escribir en el chat, o las pueden, y yo las leo, o las pueden decir en español o en inglés. Adelante, preguntas, comentarios, quizá tengan ejemplos. Maybe you have some examples of what you've been a recipient of one of these grants and you want to share an example of how you use that money. You can do that too. So, adelante, familia. Susana y luego Mari.
Hola, buenos días a todos. Tengo una pregunta. En el primer fondo, este cheque que mencionaba de $2,000, ¿es para solamente una persona o es lo que se daría a toda la institución?
On the grant, the question, Chris, is for the grant, the $2,000 grant for immigrants, is that just for one person, or is that for the institution?
It's for the institution.
Oh, it's for the
Yeah. I mean, you may end up using it all on one person. That's okay. But the grant is really to the parish.
Entonces, para que posteriormente vean esta grabación, la respuesta, y necesitan escuchar la respuesta en español porque no queda grabada, es que el grant, el fondo se da a la institución, a la organización, a la parroquia o a la conferencia de San Vicente de Paúl, si fuese el caso, y ese dinero puede ser utilizado en una sola persona o lo pueden usar con varias personas.
varias personas.
Total es $2,000. Mari?
This is Teresa, Edwin. I have a question in regards to the funds that we have new parishioners within the Hispanic community, migrants that have come recently, and some of them may not have the funds. For example, they're taking the First Communion classes, and they may not have the funds to maybe, when it comes time to the First Communion, they may need a dress for the little one or for their son or daughter. Could that be used also if they can't get here? Sometimes they don't have means of getting here each time. Would that apply to that? Would we be able to get funds for some of these families to help them with that?
Chris?
Yeah, Edwin, did you want to share that in Spanish, or do you want me to just go ahead?
Y, bueno, la pregunta en español es, Tere, ¿la puedes hacer en español también?
Sí, tenemos familias que han estado llegando, obviamente, ¿no? Inmigrantes, y a veces sus familias o los niños o que por bajos recursos no tienen como tal vez para la primera comunión, lo que se necesita, ya sea el vestido, pantalón o lo que sea para primera comunión, pero también a veces no tienen la manera de cómo llegar aquí. Y
Movilidad.
movilidad para cómo llegar aquí. ¿Se les puede otorgar algo por medio de estos fondos?
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We really, it's up to the parish to decide how to help people. So yes, you could use it to help somebody with any of those examples, with all of those examples. But
Okay.
two things about that. So, you know, first, we often think about immigrant ministries as service, you know, kind of like helping with like housing or food or whatever. But really, if you want to use the funds to help someone or a family participate in religious ed or in any kind of sacraments or whatever it may be, then yeah, you can use the funds for that.
Okay, thank you.
The second thing, though, too, is you know, parishes, when you're spending the money, generally what you want to do is reimburse the person. It's as opposed to like if you know they have to buy a dress, rather than giving them a check or cash for that matter, you know, for $100 or something, that the better practice is to get a receipt from them and pay it. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're actually using the money.
But
It's
here's
all guidance, you know, it's not written in stone.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But if these families don't have the money to begin with and they're in need of, how can they go and spend the money if they say, I don't, my daughter doesn't, I don't have the means to buy her a dress, or how would they provide us with the receipt?
You know what, and really, we're not going to tell the parish what's the best way to do it. You know, what makes sense for you and the families that you're helping. So yeah, you can do it. You could. I mean, I know a parish that when they first start working with somebody, they either give them gift cards.
Gift cards. That was my next question.
Yeah.
Could we do it through gift cards?
Yeah. Sometimes they'll even give them like spending money, like someone who's just arrived. They'll give them spending money because, you know, for the first week or something.
Right,
it's
because
just
gift cards
something it's better to try to avoid. But if it's not avoidable or it doesn't make sense, then do it the way it makes sense.
Because gift cards would give us a receipt already.
Yes.
That way. And I know that it's easier than to for bookkeeping purposes. That would probably be the best way to do it for someone who's in need, you know, if they want to buy their child their dress.
Yeah, gift cards are better than cash for sure.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And again, your response goes to show your time working in this ministry, but also the parish, which is really helpful. So gracias, gracias por tu respuesta. Tenemos 3 personas, 3 preguntas. Nos quedan escasos 5 o 6 minutos y nuevamente al final de la sesión podemos, Chris va a estar acá disponible. Chris will be here at the end of the session for another 15 minutes to continue the conversation with anyone who has more questions or wants to explore ideas. Pero ahorita vamos con Verónica, luego Rocío, y en el chat pasamos, y la tercera va a ser la pregunta que escribió Irene. Entonces, Verónica, adelante con tu pregunta.
Hi, good morning. So my question is, every or how long is this fund renewable? So like we get a fund, you said the due date was on the January 31st. So then when can we apply for another fund? Like every how many months? Más o menos mi pregunta es, ¿cada cuánto se renueva el fondo? ¿Cada cuánto podemos aplicar para estos fondos?
Sí.
Well, that's a great question. They're one-time grants. So we want to give them to as many parishes as possible. And they are, the reason we have the funds is, for immigrant ministry is because of a couple of very generous donors who wanted to support the work of the church with immigrants. And as long as, so for this year, for this fiscal year through, all right, so let me just say, let's say you apply and we give you a grant tomorrow. And if you wouldn't be able to apply again until after July 1st, when the new fiscal year begins. Probably by then, we're not going to have any funding left. But you never know. We didn't expect to have this funding. If we do get more funding next year, we'll put out another notice.
And this is for the two different funds, right?
So the immigrant ministry grant, there's no deadline on it. If we have any funds left over after July, then we'll let everyone know if they want to apply for a second round. But I don't expect to have funds left over. The transformative education grants, that's a one-time grant. We hope to make them available next year again, but it really depends on how the Catholic Campaign for Human Development collections go. And that
Okay.
grant is due at the end of January.
Okay, thank you.
Gracias, Chris. Verónica, ¿contestó eso a tu pregunta?
Sí.
Bien, gracias. Entonces, vamos con Rocío. Rocío, adelante.
Hi, Chris. Good morning. For me, will be easier to know if there is any restrictions on how to distribute the funds with the immigrants funds, and instead of what we can do, so what is not allowed to do it with the immigrants funds. So mi pregunta es más fácil para mí saber qué no se puede hacer con el fondo de para los inmigrantes. Básicamente esa es la pregunta. Gracias. Thank you.
Okay, so the funds have to be used for immigrants. Recognizing that not all Hispanics are immigrants, right? So if you're going to help someone, it has to be someone who's an immigrant, or if you're looking at helping a family, it has to be a family that where it's going to help, that it's really an immigrant family. I mean, it could be a mom and dad who have immigrated themselves and they want to help their daughter, say, who was born here. That's all fine. It just has to go to a immigrant individual or immigrant family. And of course, it has to, I mean, I feel kind of silly saying this, but we have to say it. It has to conform to, Catholic values and teaching.
Okay, and I get it, Chris. Thank you. So the second part will be, where do they apply for these grants? In the if you say it, I'm sorry, I missed it. So where do they can apply?
Sorry, I was just gonna. All right, so there's a link in the chat to the Immigrant and Refugee Ministry. That link will, on that page are the guidelines and the application for the immigrant ministry grants. Has to be submitted by a parish.
Yeah.
So it can be submitted by a parish on, I mean, you can submit it but the contact, we need to know who the parish contact is on that. So it's usually, the pastoral assistant for administration, or if if there's a Hispanic ministry staff at the parish. It just has to be signed by a staff member at the parish.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Chris, and the last question is on the chat and that comes from Irene. Irene, you're welcome to ask a question yourself, but I'll read what you brought. For the second fund, do you offer preparation classes or just the funds? If we apply?
Yeah, we really basically just offer the funds. If you're looking for materials or resources, we can help you find those as well. And in fact, you might use the funds to, I know one parish in particular is doing a Just Faith series on immigration, and they're going to use they're going to buy they're going to use Just Faith materials, right? They're doing a Just Faith series, and you have to there's a whole bunch of books and materials you have to buy in order to do that. So that's what they're using their funds for, is to get the resources to do it. Does that answer the question?
It does, and then it says for the immigrant fund, in order to use it, the immigrant, does the person has to be a registered parishioner?
No.
Okay. Bueno, pues entonces la última pregunta era si a un beneficiario de los fondos para migrantes, si la persona tiene que estar inscrito en la parroquia. La respuesta es no. De hecho, the person would not necessarily have to be Catholic either, right, Chris? As long as the person is an immigrant in need and the parish has a way of putting together resources to support him or her, the person does not even have to be Catholic. Entonces, la persona ni tan siquiera necesita ser católica. Si es una inmigrante o es un inmigrante en busca de ayuda y la parroquia tiene la manera de organizar y apoyarle, los fondos están disponibles. Pues con esto terminamos la sesión propiamente. With this, we finish the session. We're going to stop the recording shortly. We're just going to say, for the benefit of those who watch the recording, a few announcements. First, in the chat, and as well as with the recording, we will share Chris Kohler's contact information, so that if you wish to reach out to him directly, you can do that. Vamos a incluir, al enviar la grabación, la información de contacto de Chris Kohler, director para este ministerio con migrantes y para las misiones en la arquidiócesis, en caso que deseen darle seguimiento a alguna inquietud con él. El segundo aviso es, si ustedes no reciben regularmente las comunicaciones del Ministerio Hispano de la Arquidiócesis, en donde compartimos mucha de esta información, por favor envíen un correo a la dirección de hispanic.ministry@seattle.org. Vamos a compartir el correo electrónico en el chat también, y lo vamos a enviar junto con el recording, con la grabación, para que lo puedan compartir con otras personas. Por último, if you're on the parish staff, if you're a staff person at your parish, and would like you manage social media accounts for your parish, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can find us as Católicos NW, Católicos NW, Católicos Northwest. Si utilizas o manejas cuentas de redes sociales para tu parroquia, te animamos a que nos sigas en las redes sociales de Facebook, de Instagram, lo que acostumbraba a ser Twitter, que ahora es X, en LinkedIn y YouTube, como Católicos NW de Católicos Northwest. Gracias y bendiciones. Nos quedamos con quienes tengan preguntas, y con esto damos por concluida nuestra sesión.